Alright, so a video idea that I've had for quite a while now, and I'm just gonna finally tell you guys the stories of how small the world is for me. I don't know if it's because I'm a YouTuber and because, people recognize me on the street sometimes, or if it's because of the small community I found myself in, the volunteer fighting community. I've met people that I've seen years prior I thought I would never meet again. So Ukraine, March 2nd or something. I ended up going down to Kiev by train when the Russians had almost completely surrounded Kiev at that point, right? It was very early on in the war, 2022. And if I remember correctly, the train track, we were like refreshing the live map, trying to figure out, did the Russians take over some of the train tracks? Because at one point, I think a couple days prior, they had actually taken over part of the train tracks and then they were pushed away. Anyway, we get there and all of Kiev is empty. Obviously, it was the height of the war, the height of the invasion at that point. They ended up taking us down to one of the areas where they were keeping some internationals who wanted to help, and they just were just gathering everybody together to go and do paperwork and stuff. I was there with a couple of my friends, and we walked up the steps. We were near Maidan Square, pretty much. And as I walk in there, there's a big room that's through these massive double doors. There's a giant building, and this giant room opens up, and it's about 50 meters in length. And at the end of the room, I recognize somebody. Not somebody that I knew from the Marine Corps, not somebody from Syria, but from Iraq. About 6 months ago, I was with Come on. Sorry, I'm next to a train station. But yeah, I see Kamal. This guy, 6 months ago, I was in tunnels in Iraq with him, okay? He was part of my team. And just coincidentally, didn't even know he was in Ukraine. Didn't know he even had the thought of coming to Ukraine. He's here with us. And it's, I yell at Kamal, is that you? And he's like, Rodin. We have a big embrace and wild stuff. A bunch of foreigners were going to Yavoriv, or they're going to other places to go and do this paperwork. And this was the place where only like 15 of us were there now. And here he is. Anyway, we hung out, we were talking, catching up a bit. Thought I would never see him again after Iraq, but here we are. Another thing that happened was Zelensky, President Zelensky, making an Instagram post saying, I am right here, come and kill me, Russia, all that. I was not more than half a kilometer away from him when he was making those videos. At some points, a couple hundred meters away. Never saw him. Could probably listen to him if I opened up the window. And a couple other people I gotta mention because they're involved with some of the stories later on is Jericho. Jericho, he was one of the guys who I met. We called him Shepherd back then. He's American and he was killed recently actually, 2 weeks ago in Bakhmut area on the front line. Now this guy was fantastic, very motivating to us, and just a week later he'd be on the front line doing stuff. I saw him very briefly for the 2 days I was in Kiev, got the paperwork done, we split paths, right? One of the other guys that I met out there, he had been in Ukraine since 2014, okay? He's been off and on there, and he's been very, very involved militarily there. I did not know who he was at that point, and I thought I'd never meet him again. Well, a month later, I get an invitation from a Marine Corps acquaintance who was in Ukraine. It was only me and him from the same unit 6-7 years ago that were in Ukraine at that point. And he was in my company. He was a machine gunner. And this guy, he saw what I was doing from YouTube. He was hearing from other people. And he was like, okay, you seem like a good fit to our unit if you want. And I was looking to change units at that point. So a month into Ukraine, he invites me to come over and I say, yeah, sounds good. So as I'm taking the train down to Kharkiv to go and have this old Marine Corps acquaintance that I hadn't talked to in 6-7 years, he asked me to go and wait in Lviv to go and pick up another guy from our company, which is, again, incredibly strange to think about how small the world is. There are tons of Marines, by the way. Okay, like every 4 years, the Marine Corps recruits like 150,000 Marines. And it just so happens that here's two of the guys who are in my same company that are in Ukraine, and I'm waiting to go and pick up one of them from the train station to go to Kharkiv with them. So anyway, I meet up with them. We catch up along the way as we're driving to Kharkiv, and we arrive. And as the morning comes, the first Marine acquaintance that I was talking about, he decides he's gonna pick me up. So he arrives in the car, and who is driving the car right now? Jericho. Jericho's driving the car. Thought I would never see him again. There he is. And he's in the same unit as the Marine I was talking about. 3-hour drive down south, a little bit more east to our operations base. And here we are, I arrive, and who do I see right there in front of me? The guy I was talking about a little bit earlier that I met in Kiev, who had spent about 8 years in Ukraine, off and on at that point, and we're just catching up again, hey, what have you been up to the last month and a half? Oh, I've been doing this, and you, and that's just one small thing. This doesn't count all the times where I'll be walking down the street in Ukraine or Poland, and I get pulled aside. Are you Sivtiv at the airport? This happens like quite a bit, even in the US. One time I was in Germany, okay, and I saw some guys with Ukrainian backpacks, and they also had American flags. I'm like, hey, are you guys part of the International Legion? And they're like, yeah, we're coming home for leave right now. are you Sivtiv? You know, and got their Instagrams, and, you know, we catch up from time to time. And like one time I was getting groceries in Ukraine. I'm walking down the street and Sivtiv. Kind of strange, kind of interesting, a little scary, a little like weird. I don't know what it is. It's not scary. Scary isn't the word. It's just like the world is small. It really is. People I had met in YPG, good friends of mine who I would meet in the US, never knew they were in Ukraine, and then, hey, they're there, you know, and I'm meeting them at the hospital because they're injured. Or the commander of TDI, I had never met him in Syria or anything like that, but he also did that sort of work years ago. Never met him, and here I am in TDI. Didn't even know he was in Ukraine, and I'm working for him, and we're doing good things together, you know? This is the sort of life that we live. This is the sort of small world that we have. And for me, it's really interesting because obviously with social media and stuff, it becomes a lot easier to recognize people, but to see people in person and really see how connected we are as a human society, not including social media, is ridiculous. So that's what I wanted to say today. A lot more stories regarding this. I'm sure you guys have some as well, and I'd love to hear in the comments. And to finish out this video, I want to say a big thanks to the members. I have not been able to put out a video publicly for quite a bit. I haven't had much time. A lot of personal stuff I'm dealing with right now. And, you know, the members I've been keeping up with, and they've been keeping me motivated to put out videos, and we got to give them a thanks. Big round of applause. So, hey, I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Hope you enjoyed the video, and peace.